Hey everyone, Harry here to talk about Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's articles of impeachment against Justices Alito and Justice Thomas. In other words, two separate articles of impeachment. Let me start by putting this into historical context and how very, very rare it is. Only one justice in the Supreme Court's history ever has been impeached. That was Justice Chase, Sam Chase, in 1804, involving the whole political Sturm und Drang between the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, and that gave rise to Marbury versus Madison. Jefferson basically was, behind it, and it charged certain improprieties by Chase as a sitting judge, that he let in this witness and not that and the like. And it's being, what seems like obviously voted and, not passing, I think comes to stand for the proposition that you're not supposed to impeach. We don't judge it's based on their conduct in deciding cases that you may disagree with, etc. Other than that, there's been very little. The one that comes to mind that people cite is Gerald Ford, who we think of as the, kind of statesman who became president. He was a big Republican partisan. And in the fights over Supreme Court nominations that actually in the late 60s, early 70s, involving the Nixon nominees and the Abe Fortas resignation, all that, Ford filed articles of impeachment and wanted to impeach William O. Douglas and alleged certain financial improprieties. So it was, about financial stuff. Same thing had happened with Fortas. So again, very rare and not supposed to be for conduct in terms of how you rule on cases. Now come AOCs, joined by at least half a dozen. Why the articles of impeachment against Alito and Thomas? Because obviously there's a huge possibility or a huge body of, which was just referred to the Department of Justice by Senators Wyden and Whitehouse, involving Alito and especially Thomas's receipt of gifts and the failure to report them, even potentially rising to the level of false statements under the criminal code and potential criminal conduct. As we talked about that in another tape, I don't think it's going anywhere, but that's a pretty forceful kind of charge and very concrete. By the way, it's just been added to in the sense that the latest revelation about Thomas is his taking, at the beneficence, as always, of Harlan Crow, the billionaire who's made him a millionaire, but a helicopter trip in Russia, I think it's St. Petersburg, and a tour of the palace, gifts, and there's sort of, speculation by some in the newspaper reports that anybody who goes in that, Putin winds up having some compromat on, so it's got that whole sort of international dimension. Anyway, that's the latest. And what I gotta say is a very, very, very long, you just see the paper, and it's 2 pages of itemized gifts from Thomas that really make your stomach turn just thinking about equal justice under the law. Be that as it may, the point here is that's not what AOC is charging. Rather, it's the failure to recuse. So the article of impeachment is based on the notion that they should have recused themselves from a few cases, and we have the involvement of Ginny Thomas, that in the post election brouhaha, and she's a warrior of Trump. We have the same thing from Martha Alito, hanging the flag upside down. But the basic idea is they should have recused. That's a pretty Third, let's talk about that. Because recusal is governed by the Supreme Court's own standards, in theory, and the Supreme Court decides for itself, it's a hard impeachment case to make, you would think, but she's saying under the general impeachment statute that applies to other judges, just not the Supreme Court, the longstanding black eye here, they have created an appearance of impropriety and they should have stepped down. You can certainly argue an appearance of impropriety. Now, so that's the notion. Fourth, what's happening here and what's happening with the Wyden White House referral to Garland. I think both of these have to be counted as shots across the bow to really elevate the politically winning issue and, righteous issue of the real, misconduct and seaminess of Alito and Thomas. Not, however, that AOC gives, a second's thought to an actual majority of the House voting to impeach them. And likewise, I think, we've talked about this before, not that Wyden and Senator Whitehouse think that Merrick Garland will appoint a special counsel. So, it's just a dramatic kind of elevation of the issue, keeping it in the public eye, I think, having the pressure in any way you can, because the frustrating thing, even from the point of view of just good government, is Alito and Thomas have been, they've been very late and failed to disclose things, and the dog ate it and this and that. And they've also been both of them, contemptuous of efforts to regulate or oversee it all. They've given, just the slightest spit on it lately. So you could think of it as a congressional move to, at least increase the pressure, et cetera. But I think, July 2024, it's been a winning issue, and this is essentially a political move, of course. So was Ford and Douglas, So it's a serious thing that elevates the issue, and I'm sure leaves Thomas and Alito absolutely fuming, because there's nothing they can do about it. On the other hand, they won't be made to answer and have lawyers and everything like that unless and until a majority of the House were to vote out articles, which, again, has happened once in our history in 1804. So I would see it as an overall move in the, Congress applying what it can to put pressure on the justices for very controversial and in many cases dubious or improper conduct, but a serious impeachment effort, probably not. Still, definitely noteworthy, and definitely, if you put it in the context of a term in which the Supreme Court basically, has aggrandized its power, aggrandized the power of executive branch at the expense of whose power? Congress's. That Congress has really been weakened a lot by the different opinions at the end of the term. So, this is some kind of, you could put it in that context too. So it's the overall, back and forth between the branches, real spotlight on behavior that deserves to have a spotlight on it. But I have to say, I wouldn't be wagering heavy on articles of impeachment actually being voted out against Alito and Thomas. So there you have it. We'll see if it even comes to the floor on a vote. But it has done its service, in a sense, just by everyone talking about it, covering it, and these sorts of explanations. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.